Welcome to Rainbow Soul Vodcast, where our Soulstrology comes forward to help you manage your everyday life, with forecasts and deep dives on natal charts and queer perspectives on the planets, transits, and more. A group discussion about upcoming transits with tips on how to read these transits in your own chart. Hollis offers years of wisdom and natal chart knowledge with Bright Hawk's positive perspective and LeKross's inquiry. We offer the complete queer astrology experience. Welcome to Rainbow Soul. Please help us by subscribing, sharing, and commenting and reviewing. You can also learn where else Rainbow Soul is offered on our website at RainbowSoul.show.
Welcome to Rainbow Soul Soulstrology Forecast. This is Hollis Taylor, and I am one of your astrologers here today. And we'll be doing the forecast for this coming week, and which I just know that it ends on March 25th, 24th. You can find out more about me. I do private readings. I do death readings, like not when you're going to die, because Spirit doesn't put that in your chart, but it does. After a person is passed, we can look at their emotional experience and things like that. So this is for people that have passed to help you with grief. I also do like natal charts and things like that to help you figure out what career you should be doing, or relationships, or whatever's going on for you at this time. If you're having some intense experiences, definitely. Okay, so you can check out my link. It's in the description.
And Hollis does great readings, I just have to say. Hi there, I'm Bright Hawk. You can always learn more about me at brighthawkproductions.com in the link. I am an author, I'm an artist, musician, storyteller, astrologer. Happy to be here, happy to add my musical notes.
Beautiful hand-pan music.
And let us welcome our friend.
I am LeKross Ortiz. I'm the professional student here. I sit and listen the entire time. trying to learn little by little. I'm the creator of a Fool's Journal color journal, which you can find in the description. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just going to say, LeKross, astrology is a lot. It's a lot to learn. You have to like learning.
Yeah.
Which we all do, so that's really handy.
Yeah. If you don't like learning, astrology isn't fun. So, anyway, so I encourage everyone to take a moment to ground yourself so that you can hear the messages in today's forecast. Take a minute to center yourself. Put your feet on the floor. Feel your seat under your bottom. And get centered in your here and now. Close your eyes and take a moment to imagine yourself outside, underneath a beautiful moonlit sky. And as the full moon lights up and shines down on you, you can feel the moon glow on your face. You can feel it lighting up your life. And as you allow that energy to flow within you, the moon really starts to stand out in the sky. It's beautiful glow, reminding you of the intuition and the cycles that we all go through. As our bodies follow the intuitive cycles led by the moon, powered by the sun, each day rising and falling, reminding us that we are in a cycle with the earth. And as the moon glows in front of you, slowly there is a blurriness to the moon. And the moon starts to get a little bit darker right before your eyes as the sun is directly across from it, and the earth begins to block the light shining on the moon. And this eclipse, as you watch it happening before you, this lunar eclipse, you are reminded that these cycles that happen once or twice a year, just a couple of times a year, these are special moments, pivotal moments in your life. A moment in which you might realize what might need to be let go. What do you need to let go of? What needs to be released? And as you release, let it all go. You can feel the moon pulling that energy that no longer serves you, and whatever needs to come to an end will end. Whatever needs to stop will stop. And as the moon and the sun lead us to the solar eclipse in 2 weeks, the changes will integrate into our lives. And this eclipse, and every eclipse, is meant to create a pivotal moment in your life. It's time to change. It's time to evolve. And as we shed what no longer serves us, we can feel that energy fall off of us like a snake shedding their skin. And as we let that go, the moon begins to light up on the other side as the lunar eclipse finishes. To a realization that all things must change. Change is the only constant. And as we arrive back into the here and now, we become present with ourselves as we approach this eclipse. We feel our feet on the ground, on the floor. We feel our bottoms in the seat. Stretch your hands and maybe roll your neck. And become present in the here and now. I welcome you to open your eyes and become present. Well done, Bright Hawk.
Well, thank you likewise, Hollis. You did a lovely little meditation there.
It was a good way to
Hopefully I
start.
got it
little
right.
journey.
Like
Nice
the
little
sun
journey.
and the moon. Like, because if anyone else is confused by like solar eclipses and lunar eclipse and all that stuff, trust me, I also get a little confused by it. Because I wasn't really raised to look at the sky. No one, we didn't even look at the moon.
I, on the other hand, was blessed to have a father who valued looking at the sky, and we had a telescope, really old-fashioned one. And we lived in Southern California, and my father worked in aerospace. So I grew up hearing a lot about the planets, and when there would be a rocket launch and you would see the trail in the sunset sky, he would explain it to us. And you know, because I lived in Southern California, I was fortunate. The astronauts that had gone to the moon came to my school when I was a really little kid. I don't remember, all I remember was elementary school, and that, you know, we were just jaws on the floor, eyes as big as saucers, looking at these folks that seemed superhuman. Like, how could you have gone to the moon and come back? And they were like, and we brought rocks, you know. And what kid doesn't want to look at a moon rock, you know? We thought that was pretty nifty. So I was grateful to be looking up at the sky a lot as a kid, and to have Griffith Observatory, the big observatory in the Hollywood Hills. You can see the Hollywood sign from Griffith Observatory. Would go there. And then in college, I chose to take astronomy, took astronomy and astrophysics, actually. I took both in college for my science, because I really love looking at the sky. And, you know, early, when I learned the planets for the first time, what are you, second, third grade or something like that? And I was the youngest of 7 kids, and I have a bunch of sisters, and I have one brother. And so I was having it was very typical for me to report that I was having a problem with my brother. And so my dad said, well, what should I do? And I said, you should send him to Pluto, because it's the farthest place you can. And he was looking at this little kid, you know, me, and I was so earnest, and he is just trying not to howl. You can just imagine the dad looking at this little kid going, oh my God. And that's my early memories of learning the planets early, and, you know, looking at Jupiter and all the moons of Jupiter in his
Did
tiny
you ever
little-
view the eclipse as a child?
Yeah, oh yeah. We'd watch the moon, the shadow coming across, and, you know, his telescope wasn't that fantastic, so, you know, everything was not that big in that astronomy. You know, you would see Jupiter, he would get Jupiter on there, and you could make out that there were these tiny little pin specks that were Jupiter's moons.
Oh.
It took us a long time to know how many moons Jupiter had. There's, I think when I was growing up, we believed it was 12 moons, and now it's something like much bigger.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Did you view the eclipse, LeKross, when you were a kid?
I don't recall ever viewing it, because I didn't really go out much at night.
Right.
I hung out my window and kind of just would stare up at the sky. I mean, that was something
Yeah.
that I constantly did. And it's a lot different, because back then the sky was so much clearer. So you could see so many stars, like,
Right.
and the moon just seemed clearer. But I live in a city now, so, you know, here in the city, so it's a little foggier. I don't get to see as much. But
I didn't even have an idea of what an eclipse was, or that it could be viewed, until I read Stephen King's book.
See,
yeah, I had
Hollywood
never
and
seen that.
fiction can get you there.
And I was
you know?
like, oh, and then, you know, it was this storyline where the family is in watching the eclipse together, and I was like, oh, is that something families do together? Figures my family didn't do that. So, but I'm just, you know, it's definitely sort of a thing that I think would be a great value to teach. And the other time that I really started to wonder about eclipses is when I started to really listen to lyrics, and what's her name sings that song, and it's a total eclipse of the heart.
Oh
And
yeah.
so then I had a feeling, and I was like, eclipse of the heart. So like, and obviously the lyrics lead you to believe that the person goes from loving to not loving. And so those things are kind of true, my friends. I'm just going to say that an eclipse is about change. It's not always complete reversal, but it is about change. It is about intense change, and usually big change. So that's that's our theme for the week. Because at the end of the week, and you'll probably feel it this week. So, and um, you, I think you can see this lunar eclipse, and you should look it up if you're not sure. I know in Pennsylvania, you can on the East Coast, like from I think it's like New York down into the South and Texas and sort of the southern region there, will have the 100%. They'll be able to see the eclipse, and that would be the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse. So I think you can see the lunar eclipse at night, though. It's like in the middle of the night, right?
Right. So for us, it'll start about 11 p.m. on Sunday night into Monday morning.
So that
On
would
the
be
East
like
Coast,
1
it'd
in the
be like
morning.
1 a.m. Monday, technically Monday morning, Sunday night, Monday morning. West Coast, it'll start a little earlier for you, 10 p.m. It'll
I
be
don't think they have a great view of it.
Well, we're kind of jumping to the end.
Yeah.
So I have on the slide what the path is.
Oh, okay. Good.
It travels diagonally across the United States pretty much. So most folks will have a good shot at seeing it.
Okay, great.
Literally kind of, if you took a globe and you made a string and you went from Mexico, the Pacific coast to Maine, because the moon, I guess it would be Maine to, I don't know. We have it written on the slide. So.
All right, well, we'll take a look at it. All right, so we're gonna
And I totally want to encourage everyone to always just check your local listings. Hopefully you have clear skies and nothing like clouds to make it an impossible event for some folks. But at any rate, this week we're going to talk about March 18th to the 24th. But we're going to bleed a little bit into the 25th because an eclipse is a big deal for everybody.
It is indeed.
And of course they happen every year. And a lunar eclipse is always followed by a solar eclipse. And we know that a lunar eclipse, of course, happens at night with the moon is the key object. It's the shadow crossing in front of the earth. And so the lunar eclipse, I personally feel very connected to because, it ushered in my birth. I was a full lunar eclipse in 1964, and I was born the next night. So there's something about the lunar eclipse that always gets me kind of excited.
And how do they know if they were born on an eclipse? I mean, you could look it up.
You can always look up in an ephemeris online. There's tons of free ephemeris. Ephemeris is the star map. No matter what the day, it'll tell you exactly where everything was. And so, of course, when we look at our star charts, what the day we were born, the moment we were born, it's a snapshot in time. And then once you know that snapshot, you can check out all sorts of kinds of information. So I took a quick peek at what were the eclipses in 1964 because they happen every year, and I was like, oh wow, that was the day before I was born. So it's no surprise that women go into labor a lot during a full moon, right?
Change.
You're about as full as you could possibly be and ready to pop, right? So I'm sort of can imagine that for a lot of folks that I'm sure my story is not unusual. And
right.
And when we look at charts, that's also what we look at. We know a full moon, obviously, is the sun and the moon are on opposite sides of the chart, right? So you can very quickly assess about when we look at your chart, first thing we look at is where's your sun? Second thing we look at is where's your moon. Third thing we look at is where's your ascendant.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that where your sun and moon is will tell us very quickly, oh, you were born during a new moon. Look, they're almost together, or they're just a few degrees apart. Or, you were born under a crescent moon. They're quarter of the sky apart. And then based on which side, right? Is it a waxing moon? Is it a waning moon? These are quick lookups that we do that just sort of help flavor and inform for you what was going on when you were born.
So if you had a full moon across the sky, and you look it up and you find out that there was an eclipse, I'd say within about a day or two, like 2 to 3 days of your birth, before or after, I would say that you are influenced by that eclipse. And I would say that, first of all, eclipses will probably be very important to you. And also, it seems as though most people that are born around an eclipse have very fated lives. It's a fate. And most people have to have a particular fate. When they're like, there are certain things that will happen to these people that will be very just sort of fated and sort of like, and so that's,
And I have a lot of that in
and
my
they
chart.
also will have a very I think it was Nadia Shaw that said, we asked her, and I think she said that they'll also have very interesting lives. They'll be very interesting people. And so
I've been told.
that is pretty true. But then again, that's not the only thing, but it is one thing. So if you do find out that you were born around an eclipse, it can be an interesting thing to understand and realize about yourself. Okay? So the beginning of the week, which would be March 18th, the sun is just approaching Pisces. So it's leaving the Pisces area. Neptune's going to stay there in Pisces for some time now. I think it doesn't move out until, we were looking at it yesterday, till 2025. And so Neptune's going to hang out there while everybody passes over top of it. And so the sun is going to move over, and the Saturn and Venus are in a slight conjunction there. They're about 4 degrees apart, so that's pretty close. And they're trining the moon, so that's probably a blessing. Venus and Saturn together makes me think about what's going on there, because Saturn is kind of restrictive and it needs structure and such, and Venus is like stuff and money and like sort of like it's also about love and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if some sort of rules or something come down on it.
Well, yeah, exactly. One thing I would, we love to pay homage to our teachers, and we have a lot of them because astrology is a never-ending science. The education is just never-ending. Christopher Renstrom was talking about, how sometimes we see Venus really bright in the early sky, in the early evening sky, and sometimes it's the morning star.
Mm-hmm.
And he said when Venus is the morning star, this is the sky of war, conflict. And we're having 2 major conflicts on the planet right now that people are aware of. God, it's probably a lot more than 2, but 2 is what's mostly in the news. And to be wary of Venus when Venus is the morning star, because it's the Venus that takes no prisoners, is the warrior, can kick some ass and take some names, and so wants it, has that fiery energy of the morning that can be a different kind of Venus than the evening Venus, who can be, party girl and luxury and indulgence and
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't want to take credit for this theory. I was very interested. He had a lot of a lot to back him up about the difference between the two expressions of Venus. If you want to check out his channel, Christopher Renstrom, he's very good.
Yeah, well, and Pisces, Venus in Pisces makes me think about like the love for all, the love for peace, the love for all, and things like that. But I guess with Saturn, and then I don't know, coupled with Saturn, it could make you feel restrictive or disciplined. Um, and that conjunction in a trine with the moon on this day, it's probably going to be in a positive way. Hopefully, we can try to find some peace. If some people would be willing to embrace their Piscean nature of peace instead of victimhood, that would be great, Putin. And sorry, I just can't help it. And then anyway, so then the
Yeah,
sun,
there's the possibility of both, isn't there?
I'm hoping that he figures out how to come, 'cause who the hell, like, this guy's threatening nuclear war. What the hell? Okay. Um, Sun and Pluto are in a sextile, which is actually really good. That will be about transition and change, and hopefully someone will talk some sense into Putin's mind. Um, and because the Sun is very much about where we're going, and Pluto in Aquarius is very much about change, but change that involves the collective. Okay, so Aquarius is very much about like fairness and equality for all people, right? And the Sun in Pisces is very like emotional and sensitive and peacekeeping. So hopefully we'll be able to maintain some level of peace for now. And and I think those are the main, other than Jupiter and Uranus in a sextile to the moon. Jupiter and Uranus together conjunct like that in Taurus, um, it just keeps making me think of surprises, things that come up that you weren't prepared for. And it could be very much in your earthly ways, like in your house, in your work, in your things that you can touch. And it could very much be challenging physical things because it's Taurus.
Mm.
Um,
But
but it's in a sextile to the moon right now.
This is part of why I think there was a lot of hope that there could be a ceasefire by Ramadan, before Ramadan, because with the sun still at the last, what's called the anaretic degree, the last degrees of Pisces, that last little bit is you're like harvesting all the wisdom that Pisces has to offer, and then you're going to feel the change. And so with the sun in Pisces at that last like wisdom bit of Pisces, it was like, oh, maybe they'll get it done, but at this point, when we started broadcasting this, it hasn't happened. But there was the window. Especially with Pisces, like appeal to the spiritual nature and community developing skills of a Piscean. There's like, it's like the great diplomat can happen there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a bummer that it didn't, but maybe we'll hold out our hopes. The moon, as we start this week, is a waxing moon. We're getting ready for that full moon at the end of the week. And so it's a Cancer moon. The moon right now is, I'm kicking up my heels. I am home. I am enjoying myself. I am doing what I want because I am in my house. The moon obviously rules Cancer, and of course that means sensitive and intuitive, and take a bath, or whatever it is that's taking good care of you means to you. And so there's some intense aspects. It's like when you want the good stuff, you want the hard stuff. The hard stuff is going to be that the moon is squaring Aries, Mercury, North Node, and Chiron. Mercury, North Node, and Chiron are all hanging out together. They're all having a conversation together. It's why we talk a lot about Chiron in the North Node and Mercury. The conversation is about health and healing and wellness and what is good for you. And in the conversation, in the meditation, it was focusing on what is good for you and what is not good for you and being willing to let it go. So
You're probably going to feel the buildup of the eclipse at this
yeah,
point.
and that squares mean we might have to look at hard stuff. We might have to make a decision. We might have to be uncomfortable for a hot second.
What do I have to change?
Yeah.
And with the T-square,
Because it's in Aries, you're going to take action. You know, the only way you're going to feel better about whatever it is that's bugging you is by doing something about it, yo. That's what it tells me. Talking to someone, you know, whatever it is. Mercury, it could be writing if that's your thing. It could be artistic expression if that's your thing. It's Chiron. So whatever it is that feeds your soul, that's really important. And it's in there with the North Node. So it's saying, this is your fate, man. This is your destiny. All roads point over here or there or whatever, but read the signs because Aries is going to require some kind of action. So that's sort of the toughie. And then
and the thing about that is that Mercury has entered its shadow. So it's about to begin its Mercury retrograde.
Right, we're coming
Mercury
into that.
has entered its shadow. So
get it done.
whatever's happening right now that you're figuring out that you have to change or let go, or whatever's happening, this is going to be a theme for the next couple of weeks. You'll probably have to revisit it, or edit it, or you know, revise it during Mercury retrograde, which will happen in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So so just be aware that Mercury is entering its shadow. Sort of mark this time of whatever's happening in your life, because it is part of that T-square with the moon there.
And believe me, we all understand the feeling of what is it I don't know, because Jupiter and Uranus just keep getting closer and closer. And so it amplifies that feeling of oddity and different, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm itching to do something. So the moon is sextiling. You know, we're going to talk for a month or more about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction as that gets closer, and the moon is sextiling that conjunction, and then it's also sextiling that Saturn-Venus conjunction. And so, trining, and those are really lovely conversations about feeling better about things, and feeling hopeful, and seeing, gosh, you know, when I did XYZ, physical action, structure, rules, discipline, whatever, I got rewarded, and it feels good. It feels good to make progress. Productivity feels great.
Sure does. Yeah. And on the 19th, I guess that's the equinox, right? So the spring equinox, spring is here, and so are the eclipses. So is the I'm just like they're both happening at the same time. And the sun moves into Aries, what's it, at 29:35, so it'll be later in the day on Tuesday. So you know, pretty much the next day you'll be sun in Aries. And
happy birthday, Aries.
Happy birthday to the Aries people, and to those on the cusp of Pisces and Aries, which makes me think of my granddaughter.
Oh, yeah.
So happy birthday, my little one. And with Saturn and Venus conjunct up there, still that's going to be going on for a while. And the sun is trine the moon there. Okay. And you know, that's actually a pretty good blessing there, especially with the way we're going, the direction we're headed. Hopefully we'll be making good decisions in that that regard. It will at least show us which way we have to go, and we'll be aware of which way we have to go. Although there could be some actions with Mars in conjunct the moon, so you might have to make some adjustments to your actions to make sure you're on the path of change, because change is coming and you can feel it. Some people are going to resist the hell out of it. You're going to drag you kicking and screaming, while other people are going to be like, oh, we're changing. Yeah, I've already started. And those are the cardinal people. And the mutable people are like, oh, is it time to change? Okay. And then the mutable people will carry on, while people with a lot of fixed energy will be kicking and screaming. Really? Do we have to change?
You sure this is the best idea?
I'm not sure this is a very good idea. Okay. And so that's pretty much the energy of what is happening. We're sort of amping up for that. You know, so we'll be amping up for that that energy coming this week at the end of the week.
Yeah. This chart this chart feels kind of faded to me because it lines up pretty precisely with my moon. And because my moon is at 0 degrees Leo. I tell you about void moons, and I wanted to explain a little bit more if you hadn't heard what a void moon is. The void moon is just those last few degrees where before it transitions from one sign to the next, which happens about every 2.5 days. And so it's a moment of when the moon is quiet, and you are encouraged to be quiet. That's why people want to know when is the void moon. So on Tuesday, give yourself a nice lunch break. Go on a walk at lunch or something. Don't do a lunch meeting. Take a break. What I'm learning about the void moon is this is the time to meditate, take a break, take a bath, do whatever feels like downtime for you. You can work out. Some people, that's their meditation. I totally understand that. And then, okay, let's get that project initiated after the moon goes direct. Not direct. The moon is now launched into its next sign. So the moon will be in Leo at 12:30 p.m. Change for your time accordingly. In the East Coast, that would be like 2:30. West Coast, 11:30. That'll be when the moon enters Leo. And now you have the moon in Leo is about taking care of everyone, a leader, noble. Help me out here.
You said it. Nobility is very important to Leo. It can also be very centered on self or fiery about self, but mostly just because they're passionate and they're very strong on Leo. Has the energy of wanting you to be fully in yourself, as authentically and as noble as you can be.
And Pluto is still sitting at 1 degree opposite of Leo in Aquarius, and it has just been there for months. And of course, I'm very aware of this because my 0 Leo moon. So the moon opposite Pluto, I've really been trying to figure this one out and understand it because it's just been sitting on me for so long. And all I can get is that, Pluto is about transformation, and the moon is about your feelings and your internal dialogue and what's going on in there. And so, you might be feeling differently, literally feeling differently and wondering why you're feeling differently. One or two things talked about moodiness, potential for that. I don't know if I have.
Well, Pluto, yeah. Pluto.
It's been so long, it's hard to tell.
Leo moon is naturally a little moody anyway. That's why I said that, because of the fiery passion. They want to be integrous, and so they'll very much react to what's going on around them.
They like things to go well, and when they don't go well, I think that's when it can get intense.
With Pluto across the sky, it's going to have you focus on all sorts of topics, like especially in relation to power and control, and transitioning and changing, including things like death, the other side, people dying. So not just you dying, but other people that have died, and those kinds of topics. So those topics are definitely going to be on the mind. But for people that don't have moon in Leo, it won't matter so much. But if you have any interactions with that Pluto and Aquarius at 1 degree, so if you have something else at 1 degree in your chart that would probably affect that planet, right?
So that means 29, 0, 1.
Right.
Maybe
And that's about it.
2.
Maybe
you
2.
know.
And that's about it. And that'll be like that for like the rest of the year. So 29, 0, or 1 or 2 degrees. Somewhere in there, the Pluto is having some interaction with it. Whether it's in a square, a trine, or obviously if it's in Leo, it's opposite. And so if it's opposite, you tend to feel one or the other, and you have to try to figure out balance. If it's a square, it's going to be more, and that's 90 degrees, and that's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. And it's something you can figure out, though. If it's 120 degrees, which is a trine, these are the strongest ones. If it's 120 degrees away, it will be, and you can count count how many zodiac symbols are between Aquarius, 0 degree, 1 degree Aquarius, and wherever the planet is. And then, so if you count by 30, 60, 90, 120, okay. And then if it's in a trine, which is 120 degrees away, then it will be a blessing. It will maybe help you realize some stuff about yourself and change in a good way. If it's like I think it's 150 degrees away, it's in conjunct, which is also really hard, and it's not quite opposite, but it's very hard to overcome, but it is changeable. Okay. And so that's pretty much what you want to be looking at is how many degrees is whatever planet you have there away from Pluto. And this is a long transit. It's been going on for a long time and will continue to go on for a long time. Okay.
Yeah. Remember, when Pluto gets into a sign, it hangs out for
Pluto's about to back up. So Pluto's about to go retrograde later on this year. It will go retrograde later this year, move back into Capricorn for 1 degree, but not for very long, and then turn around and go forward. And it will still be reviewing this 0 degree, 1 degree. So whatever that is in your chart, that's at between 29 and 2 degrees. That's going to be going on for a while. Okay. And then on Wednesday, the 20th, at this point, the sun is fully into Aries, which is very much about going forward and individual.
Happy New Year! This is astrological.
It's
Happy
the
New
astrological New Year, which is also the equinox, right? So it's sort of like the beginning of things. It's the get out of the gate. Aries is great for helping you get out of the gate with things. So if you feel like you've been kind of sitting on something or feeling emotional about something, this is the time to get up and go, okay? And this is the Aries that's going to kind of kick you out of the gate. Mercury is beginning its shadow and will station this week. So and then so you might be like kind of thinking about where you're going. Well, let me think about that. And that's good that you review and edit that, okay? And then with Venus Venus is in a sextile with Pluto, is that right? Jupiter. Venus is in a sextile with Jupiter. Okay. And that because Jupiter and Uranus are together, it's going to end up being both of them.
Yeah,
it's coming up. It's not quite, it's just building up. So if this is stuff or things that you're hoping to manifest, if you're saving money, if you're because Venus is also conjunct Saturn, so it makes me think about people saving up money, or I know that I personally am trying to focus my money in a certain direction, so I might be restricting other things in order to get other stuff. I want to travel. It's just that simple. So instead of spending money on stuff, I'm going to spend money on travel, right? Okay. And so you might refocus and Venus rules money, and it very much has to do with how you're spending your money. And very much has also to do with self-love and love for others and relationships. So there's also a lot of people out there working with relationships. And I see that the moon has moved deep into Leo, Bright Hawk.
Yeah, and it's trining Mercury and Chiron, and of course Mercury and Chiron are like hanging out together right on the same degree. So Mercury is stationary, and now it's having that really intense healing conversation about how we're doing things going forward, and maybe reviewing it as we get ready to go backwards with Mercury.
Whatever's going on now will come up during the Mercury retrograde in a couple of weeks.
Right. And then the moon is also in a square to that Jupiter Uranus conjunction. And so that Jupiter Uranus conjunction, all I can think is big surprises, because that's like what you get. Jupiter makes everything bigger. Uranus is surprises. It's the unexpected. It's we got to do things different.
And it's in Earth, so it makes me think about it's going to be physical things.
And it literally means the thing you didn't see. It's literally the thing that you didn't consider. You didn't. Oh wow, I never thought of that. And it's kind of like breaking your leg on January 2nd. It's like, okay, 2024 is not going to look anything like I was planning. Because now all the plans go, whoosh, you're dealing with this now. And that is all you're dealing with, So that's Chiron and Mercury. Let's talk healing. Jupiter and Uranus. What needs to change? Because sometimes if we make the changes proactively, we don't get the clue by 4. And we've all been there. We've all hit it. We've all winced. We don't like it. But then something happens, because Uranus is about like bitch slapping you onto your path,
Yeah, it will.
It is the bump in the road that, I didn't realize I was wandering off the road. I guess that rock just sent me back. Boing, you're on the path again. It's unexpected bumps for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what we got going on.
Yeah, and there's probably something bugging you or in the background that will need to be shed at the end this week, and it could it's probably going to have to do with your emotions and the way you're going, and things need to change in some part of your life. And the best way to look at that is to look at what's it, the Aries Libra axis. Okay, so we'll get to that in just a moment, but the sun has moved into Aries, so it started to light that up at this point. It started to flash light on whatever it is has to change and what you have to let go. And of course the North Node and Chiron and Mercury have been hanging out there for some time now, and so they have already told you about it. This part won't be a surprise what needs to change. Whatever is going to change in the eclipse will not be a surprise. I don't think it will be a surprise. I think it will be something that you're like, I seen that coming around the corner, and so it may not be fun, but you have to let some sort of shit go. So I see the moon is almost out of Leo there, Bright Hawk. It's in a trine to the North Node, so at least we might emotionally know which way we're going.
Right. Agreed. And it's opposite Mars, and so there's that pressure about taking action, right?
Right.
And so the Leo moon is concluding, and it'll finish up here on the mountain time. It's 11:30 p.m. Go to bed. If you're on the East Coast at 1:30, go to bed.
That's what I do at nighttime when I'm ready to go to bed. I say, it's time for bed.
Everybody go to sleep.
Everybody go to sleep now.
So your Sunday night's the night you want to try to stay up late if you want to watch the eclipse, but Thursday night, just go to bed early. Whatever early is for you. I don't know. If you're in bed by 11, most people consider that. Between 10 and 11, it's the early side, right? It's a normal time to go to bed,
I think that's normal. 10, 11. I think early might be like 8.
And then, of course, the moon goes into Virgo.
Right. So that would be on Friday. And so now we're really getting close to the eclipse. And at this point, you know what has to change. You're probably trying to figure out what has to change. And it's probably going to have something to do with relationships and individuality. Okay. And your individual expression of what do you have to let go in relationships in order for you to feel like an individual? What part of you has to express as an individual? And that might be shedding that part of the relationship. I notice that there's also on this day, we still have a lot of the same energy carrying on from the week, but at this point, the yod is pointing at the moon, Bright Hawk.
Yeah, and you were using that term in conjunct 150
50 degrees. Mm-hmm.
That's what makes a yod, also known as a finger of God. And it also is references fated energy, the destiny. So when it's pointing at the moon is in Virgo. And so what Hollis was just saying about you figured it out, Virgo is going to help you get organized, categorized, see what needs to be done, and do it. Virgo gets it done. Virgo's a good nurturer. It's a good, looks at the whole system, the whole family, the whole whatever tribe, and works to create solutions that work for everyone. So this is a powerful placement and a positive placement, I would say.
With pulling from Saturn and Jupiter, which have their own conjunctions right now, Saturn and Venus, that might be about money or love and relationships, and then Jupiter with Uranus is going to be surprises. So you might be bringing a surprise into a relationship because you're asking for a change or demanding a change or ending it, it could, and it doesn't have to be love relationships. Just by the way, every time I say relationships, people are like, oh, and they think about their love relationship. It's not always that. Sometimes it's a business partnership. Sometimes it's friends, family. All of those people are relationships, including, which I appreciate Stormy Grace always reminding us of this. It could be also in relationship with yourself or your relationship with money. I think her Capricornian energy always helps us realize that you have a relationship with food, you have a relationship with money, you have a relationship with life. So whatever that is, and so Saturn and Venus in a sextile with Jupiter and Uranus, it's going to be a surprise to someone. It may not be a surprise to you, but it might be a surprise to somebody else. Okay, they'll be like, whoa, okay, so you're not doing that anymore. All right. Or, okay, I guess that's the end of that relationship. Or, okay, I guess we're not on talking bases anymore. Okay, whatever has to change, you're going to let it go, just like Judith Hill always says. And you can see that the yod is actually, there's also, the yod is actually pointing at the south node. It says that the moon, but those are quincunx, and that's the inconjunct is like that little like pi symbol. Okay. It's like a little thing with a line on top of it. It's like a, but the line is on the top instead of through the middle. And you can see it's pointing at the south node. So, and it's in Libra. So, and that makes sense for the eclipse, which is about to happen. Mm-hmm. Because and it's in a sextile to Jupiter, and Jupiter and Saturn have that sextile at the bottom of it. So there's at the bottom of a yod, there's always a sextile, which is the good part of the conversation, and then there's the challenge part of moving towards whatever. It has to be done. You know what change has to be done, yeah. And so you realize what that change is, and then you move towards that change. And so the south node is pretty much, you're going to be shedding something. You gotta, like Judith Hill says, you gotta take a dump. You gotta just
everybody
leave it go.
Does every day, I hope.
So okay, I'm just she says it's your anus. It's the anus in the sky. Because the south node.
It's because of, and this is true in draconic astrology, the nodes represent a dragon, And so the north node represents the dragon's head, and the south node represents the dragon's tail. Guess what comes out that side? The holy shit of life.
I
The
think she's funny.
compost of
I
life.
think it's funny and it makes it easy to remember.
Yeah, it does. It actually does.
Yeah.
We never want to talk about those things, but those things happen.
Yeah,
and
you know,
it's
shit
just
happens.
Part of life, Saturday.
On Saturday, I'm just gonna say that whatever the surprise is, whatever's coming up, because Jupiter and Uranus are getting so much closer together, there is some sort of surprise that you're bringing or experiencing in your relationship, in life, maybe with some other people, maybe someone has surprised you. It will have something to do with money and restriction and things like that, but it will be something that needs to be shed. So it needs to be shed. It's something that you want to do. And with the yacht in the sky, it's still pointing at the south node. We're headed towards that one way or another. We're gonna let shit go. And that's pretty much where I mean, at this point, I think the energy of the eclipse has taken over into Sunday. And so this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to be feeling the eclipse. You're going to know what needs to be let go. What are you getting rid of? What has to change, and how are you doing it? At this point, there could be some surprises in relation to that. It could definitely have to do with earthy things because Venus rules Taurus. And that makes me think about the luxurious things that you pay for, money. It could be that something comes up with, like when we go back to Stormy talking about your relationships, that you have relationships with your house, with money, with your with the land that you live on. And so something could happen in your house that you have to repair, and that could mess up your money plans. Or, with Venus and Uranus there, it will be a surprise either for you or you'll be delivering that surprise. So, and it could have to do with relationships. And if the relationship has to end, look, sometimes relationships have to end. And I know all of us sitting here, me and Bright Hawk and LeKross, have all had relationships that have had to end. And sometimes it sucks when it ends, and you resist the shit out of it. And you don't want it to end, but it does end. And then when it finally does, and you move on from that ending, and you start to continue with your life, at some point you usually are like, I am so glad that relationship ended because this would have never happened. So always remember that when that's happening, when there's some sort of change. The last time I've been through a couple of major breakups, and during the last breakup, I just kept thinking to myself, there must be something better planned for me. It's clear that something is better planned for me, and that way is the old way, and I don't really want that anyway. I've been praying for it to go away. I want it to change. I don't want to suffer like this. I don't want to have a normal job where I go to work from 9 to 5. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to, and all of those things is part of what broke up the last relationship. Okay. So, like, just be aware that this could be something that you really need. It could be really positive, and we'll find out about that at the solar eclipse on April 8th. So you should be prepared that in the next 2 weeks, this week and then the 2 weeks in between the eclipses, not only will you shed some shit, but you'll also figure out how to resolve it. Okay? You'll find some resolution. You'll figure out, this is why I had to let go of this so I could go this way. Okay, now I get it. Okay, and so it may not be easy to accept for some people. Some people that are cardinals, strong cardinal energy, will be like, what? Yeah, I already know. Okay, immutable people will be like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going this way now. And then people that are more fixed are going to be like, really? We have to change?
Again.
Right? Okay. And so they're probably not going to be happy about it and they'll resist. But I'm just going to say to those people, take a deep breath and just keep going forward. It's going to change and it's going to be okay. Um, and so it's supposed to happen this way. This is the change that's supposed to happen. This is the shit we gotta let go. We gotta let go of it. And this is the eclipse that will be going on this Sunday. I encourage you to um I encourage you to the full moon is in Libra at that point. So you want to look at about 5 degrees around 5 degrees Libra. So like up to about 10 or 15-ish degrees. And pretty much anything in Libra is probably going to be affected. So where is Libra in your chart? Right? And where is Aries in your chart? Okay. And Aries is about your individual. It's about you going forward. It's about starting new things, getting you out of the gate. But what house is it in? And that's what you want to look at. And that's going to help you understand what part of your life it's going to be affecting. Aries is ruled by Mars. So you should also pay attention to where Mars and Venus are. Libra is ruled by Venus. So paying attention to where they are, and they're both in Pisces. Okay, so this is probably going to be a very emotional experience for you. Just to allow the emotions to happen and try to stay away from feeling like the victim and instead try to move into making peace or trying to find peace or how can you balance these two things? What do you have to let go of in order to be your individual self? What do you have to move past in order to be balanced? Okay, and that's pretty much what's going to be happening in this eclipse. There's no need to be scared of it. It's just be prepared for it. Okay, so and whatever you have planned going on this weekend, it's probably meant to be, okay? And you just need to follow it and allow it to manifest. All right. Do you have anything to add about the eclipse?
Yeah, and on Sunday morning the moon will be void before it goes into the full moon goes into Libra. So take Sunday morning to just enjoy. Just enjoy. Not work really hard, but just do whatever feels good for you. And then Libra, I just always think the symbol of Libra, of course, is the scales. So it's about balance. It's about and an eclipse is a rebirth, a reset. It's as if time stops and starts again for a moment, is how some people describe it. Of course, it doesn't, but there's this thing that happens. And because it's like a moment in time, it's like a reset button. So take that time to reflect for yourself about what needs to get reset, what needs to be what's being reborn in your life. How are you being reborn in your life? That's probably a better way to put it.
Yeah, it's definitely about rebirth and reborn and change. And and it's going to take like a couple of weeks for this to happen. It doesn't happen overnight.
Oh,
You'll
the
build up to it and then
take,
it changes and then it manifests.
And eclipses last for months, the energy of what gets initiated. So, and of course, we're going to be doing the solar eclipse in 2 weeks at the new moon. But right now, I put the moon of the moon's shadow path. It makes landfall on Mexico's Pacific coast, and right there on the west, and then it travels all the way across the United States from Texas to Maine, exits North America about around Newfoundland, and then of course it just keeps going into the Atlantic and across the globe. So this time around, North America happens to be in the sweet spot for both eclipses, and what an opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to change, my friends. The change is happening. Just accept the change.
So any way it happens, the eclipse will be powerful. We hope it's powerfully magical and wonderful for you. We hope you're prepared now that we've kind of helped you see the way. What do you think, LeKross? You got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I keep having like the winds of change coming through my head, the winds of change.
It is
And the truth,
spring, right?
right. And but what better way to soar than through the hawk? Because we're going into the hawk right now. Yep. And so with that, I mean, hawk is mostly about clarity. It's about changes because they're, the clarity is their keen vision. So I think it's coming through this into the eclipse season. Like you said, it's not going to be a surprise. You're going to see it coming. You're going to be prepared and you're going to have clarity. By the time the eclipse comes, you will have clarity as to what needs to be done. And I think at that point is being able to soar through it, because birds use the wind to help them. They don't ever fly against the wind. They're going to use the wind to help them get to the destination or whatever decision it is that needs to be made. So I think at this point, the winds of change, soar with it, use your wings. Don't try and fly against it, because if you fly against it, it's not going to work. Just soar with it. And yeah, that's pretty much, and trust yourself, trust your inner wisdom that you're making the right decision. Intuition is key with the hawk. So intuition, ride, soar the winds of change. And that's pretty much what I'm getting.
Yeah, the winds of change. Like, I just feel like it's like spring, and that's what it always feels like to me. The eclipses always tend to be, I think they're in the spring and the fall always, right?
Yeah.
So they're at the change of the major seasons, before we enter the winter and before we enter you know what I'm saying? So it's from winter to spring and then from summer to fall.
Well, this axis happens to be,
Okay.
but it moved. The nodes move every couple of years,
Okay.
so the eclipse will move right along.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
go
well,
through the whole
and I thought it
cycle
was
as far as I
fascinating.
know.
If you look around online, I encourage you to go listen to other people's, other astrologers, predictions for this eclipse. One of the things that Stormy Grace was saying was to look back in September of 22, September of 2022. And this is a more complicated connection, but essentially she's saying that that's part of what you'll be dealing with. So I think that's fascinating as well. So that's just like a little tip, and I'm pretty sure Nadia Shaw says something very similar. Okay.
Yeah.
So just know that whatever's happening is supposed to be happening. And I think that sometimes when I'm in the middle, when something kind of comes in and smacks me in the face, it happens to all of us. When that happens, I'm kind of like, okay, so what's the meaning of this? Like, what's really going to come out of this? And I think if you're able to pull back from the emotion enough, you start to realize that even though something could be hard in the moment, like I thought about that when I had to have open heart surgery. I spent a lot of time thinking about, well, maybe there's a bigger meaning to this. Maybe there's a bigger thing that's supposed to happen. And so that's what you want to focus on. Don't try to victimize yourself, because Venus and Mars are in Pisces, and the shadow of Pisces can sometimes see themselves as a victim. So instead of doing that, I'm going to suggest that you instead try to find the peace to it, find inner peace, and finding what is the deeper meaning, and or know that you're headed towards your destination, even if it doesn't seem clear right now. Okay, it will become clear by April 8th. By then you'll know what it is. All right, and I'm gonna pull 3 cards from the Pride deck, Love is Love. It's a LGBTQ deck, and each card is done by a different artist. So the first card, let me pin this up in case you are watching. I know many people just listen, but I also want some people do watch. And this is the Ace of Pentacles. You can take a look at this card. It has a person holding, a person's hand is holding a pentacle, and the pentacle is really the focus. And it's really about, and you can see that the hand is kind of coming out of the clouds because this is about the recent mastery that you've found regarding your finances, your resources, or any other kind of physical manifestations. So this could be anything that you can touch and feel, which also is kind of a Venus energy. So this is like, you know, your resources, your house, your money. And this is a reminder about in the past about how that has come and how that's been strong for you, okay? And how that's enhanced your life, and how it's brought forth positive things. This is a reminder of that path. And then in the here and now this week, this is pretty much what we were talking about. This is the standing with the shadow. This is the warrior standing to the shadows that they face. And we all have shadows that we face. We all have things that are not perfect about us, or that that we have to deal with. And that's exactly what this is about. This is about standing up to the shadows. It's the Five of Swords. It's about coming to the awareness of the shadows, and finding ways to work through those shadows. So oftentimes swords have a lot to do with thoughts. And thoughts and action sort of together. And that's pretty much what the Five of Swords is. It's about getting your thoughts in order. And so that's pretty much what's going to be happening this week, is you're going to be experiencing, just like I said, that you'll be figuring out which way you're supposed to go and how to deal with those shadow pieces. What is those shadow pieces you need to get rid of? This is a great week for shadow work. So if you've been working on shadow or anything like that, you want to take a look at your shadow work journal. You want to be working on that kind of thing right now. Okay. And then the great news is these are really powerful cards. I'm just going to say, because now we're at the Ace of Swords, and this is a very powerful card, just like the Ace of Pentacles is, which we started with. And this is the Ace of Swords, which is very much about going forward and thinking in a positive way, thinking in a fully expressive way that fully expresses who you are, especially in this card. Because if you take a look, there's a high heel hanging from the crown that is sitting on the top of that sword, and that's to represent the sort of winning energy. And if you take a look real close at that sort of imagery at the top here, it's that Michelangelo's painting, or I guess it was a drawing or something that he left behind in some of his writings or something. And it has to do with balancing your energy and knowing your full body, and being full in your body, being fully authentic, being who you are, being fully human. And that's pretty much what this is about. This is saying you will find your way forward. And although it may have been a process, you will fully express who you are with that beautiful high heel, that's clearly full of some sort of liquid there. See, one time a queen had put beer in a. That's all I can think of is beer in a high heel, but it was because she won some sort of contest or something. And so it's celebratory. And with the plant also hanging on the other side here, it's very celebratory, and it's very like got your thoughts in the right process, and you're heading forward in a good way. So remember how this goes this week is a reminder of exactly what you have that is great. Remember the resources that you do have. What do you have? Please don't forget that. This is about gratitude and holding on to those things that are good for you, that are positive. And remember, you do have resources. You are not totally at a loss, especially when you go to fight those shadows, right? So when you move into this week and you're fighting those shadows, remember, you have everything you need to fight those shadows. You have all that is needed. And that's pretty much the Five of Swords. And then going forward, it will lead you to a win, to a positive expression of yourself, to an authentic expression. And that's sort of like trusting the winds of change, right? So trusting those changes, trusting that you can handle those changes regardless of what they are. Okay.
Wow.
So
Powerful.
Really
Yeah,
worked with the
powerful.
week.
What's that?
I said that really, really worked with the week.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's always amazing how the tarot and the astrology and the animal totem all seem to tell a really beautiful story that complements each other
Yeah.
in a coherent manner. So I love that.
Yeah. And I think that these are tools, right? So what we're using here is tools: astrology, tarot, animal totems, understanding the eclipse. All of these things are tools, my friends. And I think having a tool to deal with or be prepared for your week, and to sort of navigate your way through life, I think it's priceless. I think if you don't have tools, I think that's when we feel lost, when we feel like no one's holding the wheel.
And it's great that we live in a time where getting tools, getting resources, getting information is so readily available. You know, there's so much available to learn from. And yeah, so I hope you enjoyed and learned from us. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Let us know how your eclipse is going. If you want to share your story in the comments, let us know how you're doing, how you're navigating this. And you know, if you do get by the way, use the eclipse glasses on your phone, because it will break your phone camera. I looked it up.
For the solar, not the lunar, but that's in a couple of weeks.
I think you can.
Lunar, yeah, lunar's no big deal.
Okay.
You know, you're just looking at the full moon.
But if you take a picture of like the
Lunar
eclipse,
eclipses always remind me of Pac-Man. You know, it just gets slowly eaten up and comes out the other end, you know.
okay.
But solar eclipses, you really must be careful about your vision. You must be careful about how you view it. Last time we did the old poke a hole and a pinhole and have a cardboard and a piece of paper, and you just sort of watch it on the reflection. But now we've got the glasses, so the glasses,
you can
make
order
sure they're real ones.
You can order a package that will protect your eyes and your camera online on Amazon. Just letting you know, that is possible. It's under $20. I think it's under $10. I think it's like $8 or something, and you get like 10 pairs of glasses, so you can invite other people to do this with you. And I think whether you make time to watch or take pictures of the other eclipses, if you do get pictures, share your pictures. I want to see.
Yeah.
And I just hope that you're able to integrate the lessons or the experiences of the eclipse. It doesn't have to be a lesson. It can just be an experience.
Send you lots of lunar love.
Yeah, make sure you like and comment. You know, send us pictures. We'd love to see them, and let us know what's happening for you. We'd love to hear from you. All right, my friends.
Thanks for watching Rainbow Soulstrology, where we try to be a bridge between you and the stars.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's Soulstrology and subscribing, liking, sharing, and reviewing. We hope you enjoy this dose of Soulstrology and encourage you to embrace the week ahead with an open mind and heart so that you may integrate the deepest of lessons from the stars. Take a moment to step outside and honor the planets, stars, and moon in the sky with your heart. Integrate the messages that resonate and leave the rest for someone else. We deeply appreciate each and every one of you. Always remember that you are a perfectly unique human with an exclusive star map of your destiny, your soul purpose, and your heart's desire. Thank you again for tuning in to Rainbow Soul.